Hello everyone, this is Samar Mujib, Assistant Professor, Hygiene Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, and today I am going to present a lecture on insulin and oral hypoglycemic agents. As we all know that the pancreas, which is responsible for the secretion of insulin, apart from insulin, it also contains three more cells: alpha cell, beta cell, delta cell, and F cell. Alpha cell secretes glucagon, beta cell secretes insulin, and delta cell secretes somatostatin, F cell secretes pancreatic polypeptides. These all cells work in accordance with the metabolic function of the body. But since our concern is insulin, so we will talk about insulin and its release and its metabolism and how does it controls the metabolism of carbohydrate in the body. Now coming to the types of diabetes, there are two types of diabetes: diabetes type 1 and diabetes type 2. Type 1 diabetes results when the pancreas cannot produce insulin. That means the beta cells of pancreas cannot produce insulin at all, and it occurs because of a autoimmune disorder. Autoimmune disorders are type of disorders in which the body cells generate antibodies against their own cell, and when the beta cells are destroyed, they are not able to produce the insulin, and since insulin is not produced enough, it results in the lack of metabolism of carbohydrates. It is usually diagnosed in children and young adults, and that is why it is also called juvenile diabetes. Juvenile leads for small children. And when someone suffers from type 1 diabetes, then it is ultimately necessary that we supply them the insulin externally by injection. And since insulin is a polypeptide hormone, it is absolutely necessary that it is given only through an IV or SC route. Now coming to the type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, in which there is a disorder of the beta cells. Beta cells cannot produce insulin at all. But in type 2 diabetes, either the body does not produce enough insulin or the cell develop a resistance to insulin. See, when insulin is secreted, mere secretion of insulin is not okay. It is necessary that insulin reaches the receptor of the cell where it can bind with the receptor of the cell and perform the metabolic function. But if the cell receptors do not identify insulin or they create resistance, then there is absolutely no use of insulin. And since we all know sugar is a basic fuel of the cell, without sugar, sugar in this case glucose, because glucose is the basic monosaccharide which is responsible for the synthesis and generation of energy in the form of ATP. Insulin, this type of insulin is called type 2 type 2 diabetes, and in this case different other kind of drugs that we call oral hypoglycemic drugs, they are used. We will discuss it in the new slides. Now coming to the structure of the insulin, as I have already told in the previous slide that the insulin is a polypeptide hormone. What do you mean by polypeptide? Polypeptide means it is a long chain of amino acid. Okay, long chain of amino acid, but not that long that it may be considered as protein. Protein has a very large number of amino acid attached together by peptide bonds, and the molecular weight raises to thousands, more than 1,000, like 20,000, 30,000. But polypeptide, it consists of considerably smaller chain of amino acids. Okay, now coming to the structure of the insulin, we can see here there are two chains. This is chain A and this is chain B. Chain A consists of 21 amino acid and chain B consists of 30 amino acids. Now there is very important thing to notice that chain A and chain B are connected by disulfide bridges. here from cysteine. Why cysteine is mentioned here? Because cysteine amino acid contains sulfur in it, and here also cysteine and cysteine, because cysteine amino acid contains sulfur. And this bridge these two bridges are important, so that the two chains are somehow connected to each other. Okay, now within chain A we can see that there is also a disulfide linkage. Now insulin, which is a pancreatic hormone, is a anti-diabetic agent. It is called as anti-diabetic agent because obviously insulin is responsible to convert the complex glucose into its various form, that is glycogen. Okay, human insulin is a double chain protein and it has a molecular mass of 6000 Dalton, and it contains 51 amino acid which are bound together by disulfide bridges. The importance of disulfide bridges is that it keeps the chain of the amino acid, chain of the polypeptide hormone insulin intact within a cell. Now coming to the biosynthesis of insulin, we can see that it is synthesized from proinsulin and it converts into insulin when the C peptide is removed. Okay, in beta cell, insulin is synthesized from the proinsulin precursor, which contains three domains. Each and every polypeptide and amino acid contains three terminals: amino chain, carboxy chain, and a connective peptide. When the connecting C peptide is removed, then it will convert into the active form of insulin. Now there are various hormones which allow the conversion of the proinsulin into C peptide, that is exoproteases, carboxypeptidases. These are the enzymes which cleave the connecting peptide. Connecting link or connective peptide is also a portion of the polypeptide. Okay, now how does the insulin work? Insulin works by binding with specific receptors on the surface of the cells. See, we have glucose in our body. Okay, as soon as, and where does this glucose reside? Glucose resides in the blood, and blood runs outside of the cell, that is, it is an extracellular fluid. As soon as the blood with glucose in it reaches towards the pancreas, pancreas detects that okay, yes, now blood has glucose here, and then pancreas gives signals to its beta cells that now it is your time to release the insulin. It releases the insulin, and insulin further metabolizes the glucose into glycogen, or it makes glucose to be used up by skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles, fatty tissues, and leukocytes. Insulin helps to metabolize the glucose. Remember just this thing. Okay, insulin helps to metabolize the glucose. It converts glucose into either glycogen, or it converts, or it makes it to be used up by the body organs. Your brain needs majority of the glucose which you get from the food. Whenever you eat any carbohydrate like starch, like rice, or when you eat sugar, like you eat pudding, you eat cake, whenever you consume a carbohydrate rich diet, the carbohydrate is broken down into smaller monosaccharides. Still it first of all it was polysaccharide, then it converts into oligosaccharides, then it converts into disaccharides, then it finally converts into glucose. Glucose is a basic unit. Okay, now either insulin will bind to receptors of the surface of these skeletal muscles, and it lowers the sugar content by turning glucose into glycogen. Glycogen is the stored form of carbohydrate. Okay, now what does insulin do? Insulin changes glucose into glycogen, or it makes the muscles, brain, fat tissue, and other cells to use the glucose, so that the concentration of the glucose in the blood is maintained. Whenever there is a high concentration of glucose, whenever you eat extra sweet meal, the blood glucose level rises, insulin gets the signal, sorry, pancreas gets the signal, it releases the insulin, and insulin does its work. Okay. Now, coming to the classification of the oral hypoglycemic drugs. Why it is named as oral hypoglycemic drugs? See, I told you that insulin is proteinaceous in nature. It is a polypeptide. So it cannot be given orally, because whenever it is given orally, the enzymes of the body which digest the protein will digest the insulin also. So it will get destroyed. Nowadays there have been certain researches going on, and I think few of the scientists have synthesized the oral orally compatible form of the insulin also. But oral hypoglycemic drugs are those drugs which mostly work in type 2 diabetes, when there is insulin, but insulin cannot work properly. Okay. So oral hypoglycemic agents, why it is named oral? Because we can take it as a tablet or capsule. Okay. Hypoglycemic because they lower the level of the glucose in the blood. Okay, the first oral hypoglycemic agent in the category of the oral hypoglycemic agent is the sulfonylurea. Why is it is the name as sulfonylureas? Simple as it is, sulfonyl word comes from SO2 group, and urea has the molecular formula of NH2CO, NH2. So you can see, I will zoom it for you. You will see here, see this portion, this is NHCO, NH, this portion comes from the urea, and SO2, this portion comes from the sulfonyl. Okay, these are the derivatives of the sulfonylurea: carbutamide, tolbutamide, chlorpropamide, glibenclamide, glipizide, acetohexamide. You can easily learn how it is synthesized, and the main characteristic, the main functional group, the basic moiety which is very important in sulfonylureas are SO2 group and NHCO, NH group, because it derives from its name. Okay. Now coming to another category, that is biguanides. Biguanides, what the name implies: guanidine. Two molecules of guanidine fuse and they form biguanides. What is guanidine? Guanidino group is the most basic molecule, okay, because it contains nitrogen. Here you can see in biguanides, you can see so many nitrogens. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, we all know that nitrogen has a lone pair of electron in it. It has a tendency to donate the electrons whenever it sees any electron deficient molecule or ion. Okay. So according to the Lewis, the electron acceptors are known as acids and electron donors are known as bases. Here there are 5 nitrogen. So overall the basicity of biguanides is very high. Okay. The examples are fenformin, metformin, buformin. Fenformin because simply it contains the benzyl group. Met stands for methyl. Both R and R1 contains methyl group. Buformin simply stands for butyl group. Okay. Now maglutinides, we call maglutinides as substituted benzoic acid derivatives because most of the derivatives contain a basic benzoic acid group. You can see here in ripaglinide, maglutinide, and in natiglinide you can see that it is a derivative of benzoic acid, not exact core molecule of benzoic acid. Thiazolidine diones. Thiazolidine diones, as the name suggests, thiazolidine, it means it contains a heterocyclic link which contains a sulfur and azole. Azole stands for nitrogen. So we can see here it contains a 5-membered ring which contains a sulfur and a nitrogen, and diones, 2 of the ketone groups. These are simply called as glitazones. For example, in place of R, we have when we change R, we get bioglitazone, cyclitazone, rosiglitazone, etc. Okay. Now, mechanism of action of sulfonylureas. How sulfonylureas work? sulfonylureas bind to ATP dependent K plus channels on the cell membrane of the pancreatic beta cell. Okay. Now, pancreatic beta cells have certain receptors which are only activated through ATP channels. Okay, they have K plus channel which are ATP generated. So whenever sulfonylurea binds to that channel, it inhibits the outflux, means moving out of the potassium. This outflux, when is inhibited, it causes a electric potential and the membrane becomes more positive, or you can say hyperpolarized. Okay, now after being hyperpolarized, when it's again depolarizes, then it opens voltage gated calcium channel. Voltage gated calcium channel, it ends up with the rise in intracellular calcium. More calcium leads to fusion of insulin granules with the cell membrane, and which results in the increased secretion of insulin. As simple as that, you should know that whenever sulfonylurea binds to the ATP dependent K plus channels of the pancreatic beta cell, it inhibits the outflux of the potassium, which causes the depolarization and opens the voltage gated calcium channel. As soon as the voltage gated calcium channel opens, it leads to an increased increased release of the calcium. More calcium is released, more insulin granules will fuse to the cell membrane, and more insulin is released. Okay, this ends with the part 1 of the oral hypoglycemic agents and insulin. In the next lecture, we will discuss about the mechanism of action of other drugs and also the miscellaneous drugs. Thank you.